everybody, it's Brooke with the Buttered Home, and welcome to my messy kitchen. I can't talk tonight. What else is new, right? We are so glad you are joining us tonight. We have a true Southern classic recipe for you tonight, and it is for Cracklin Cornbread, and we cannot wait to show you this decadent, wonderful cornbread. Now, cornbread is a Southern classic no matter what. And this recipe, you can simply leave the cracklins out and have a really good, flavorful cornbread all on its own. But if you want a special bite of something beautiful and glorious, then you will trust me on this and you will add in these wonderful pork cracklins. Now, if you're new to Southern cuisine and you don't know what a pork cracklin is, trust me when I say it is much different than a pork skin. Pork skins are actually made from the skin of the pork, and they puff up whenever you fry them, and they're wonderful and they're keto friendly and they're great, but they do not work well in cornbread. So a true pork cracklin comes from, and what we like to use is pork belly, and this incorporates some of the underlying fat layer with just a little bit of the pork layer underneath there, and it cooks in its own fat that you render down, and it fries up to a meaty but crispy, wonderful texture. And essentially what it is it's raw bacon, and we like to use pork belly for this. You can also use salted pork, or you can use really thick cut bacon in place of it. Or if you want to let somebody else do the cooking, you can actually order them online from several different wonderful establishments in Louisiana that make some of the best you'll ever have. Or you can do like what Big D has done, and you can learn how to make them yourself. And for that, we are most thankful. So this recipe, like any good cornbread, starts out with a hot iron skillet. So I have 4 tablespoons of butter, or 1/4 of a cup if you want to get technical, and we're going to put this guy in the oven to heat up while we prepare the cornbread. So I'm just going to do that now. And our oven is preheated to 425 degrees, and now we're going to show you how to start the magic. So here we have about a cup of cut up pork cracklins, and I'm just going to show you the texture here. You'll see you have some of that crispy skin here along with the chewy, meaty fat of the pork belly. So if you dice these up yourself, and I recommend that you do, you're going to want to just be really careful, because some of that crispy edge can be kind of cumbersome to cut through. But you're just going to chop those into small bite-sized pieces. And we have about a rough cup here, and Big D helped me chop them, and it looks like more like a cup and a half. But that's okay. Nobody ever said that bigger isn't better or more isn't better. So in a large mixing bowl, we are going to mix up 2 cups of self-rising cornmeal mix. And I like the cornmeal mix because it makes my life easier. That way I don't have to do a bunch of measuring and mixing and all this kind of stuff. And White Lily makes a really good self-rising cornmeal mix. And to that, we are going to add 1/2 cup of plain flour. And we're just going to mix those together. And then we're going to set them aside. And then here I have 2½ cups of buttermilk, and we're going to put our pork cracklins in our buttermilk. And that will help kind of soften them up just a little bit so that all that flavor can be released and added into the cornbread. And then here I have 2 lightly beaten eggs, and those are all going to go into the buttermilk mixture as well. And we're going to mix that up really well. And then I'm going to kind of clean up my surface here, because you want to get all those good little bits in there because that is very flavorful. Now we're just gonna let those sit for just a minute over to the side, and then I'm gonna make sure that my cornmeal mixture and my flour mixture is good and mixed up. Now, cornbread, there's no real rocket science to it. If you've got a hot skillet ready, then that is what you're going to want to use. If you have not preheated your oven, you can totally mix these two things up and let them stand while your skillet continues to heat in the oven and your butter continues to melt. So I'm gonna check on those real quick, and we are almost there. But I would not mix the two of these up and let it sit, because then you have the tendency to soak up that buttermilk with your cornmeal mixture, and it will also kind of swell. So you want to wait and mix these two things up together right before you pour it into your hot pan. So the pan is almost done, so I'm going to add my wet ingredients into the dry, and we're just going to kind of fold that in, and it's going to be lumpy and it's going to be bumpy because you got all that wonderful crackling in there. And cracklins are wonderful and they're flavorful, and they will release so much flavor into this cornbread. I mean, if Big D had it his way, we wouldn't eat cornbread any other way. All right, so just like with a cake or your biscuits, you're just gonna wanna mix that just until it comes together. And then I'm gonna step over here and get our skillet. And if your oven is preheated, it does not take long for that butter to melt. So we've got the melted butter, and then we're going to take our crackling bread and we're going to pour it into that hot skillet on top of the butter. And it doesn't matter if your butter comes up over it, if it comes around it. And one little side note, you can also use bacon grease for this. But we're the buttered home, so we are going to stick with butter for this. So now you'll see that whenever we poured it in, some of the butter has kind of escaped around it. That is okay. So we are going to put this into our 425-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes until it's nice and golden brown and your whole house smells wonderful. So we're gonna do that now, and then we will be back to show you the finished product. Hey everybody, we are back and we have finished a 30-minute cook time on this glorious cornbread. And we are gonna pan overhead now so that you can see how beautiful and brown it is. And you've even got some of that beautiful, beautiful cracklings kind of peeking through. So I'm just going to cut into this so that you can see how pretty it is. And it's still really hot. So I'm gonna be extra careful trying to get it out of the pan. And the first piece of anything that comes out of a pan is always the cook's piece, because you never cut it just right and it's always kind of ugly, but we're gonna show it to you anyway. And it is beautiful. You can see those cracklings peeking in from out there on the side. And then we're just gonna slice it here on the side and stick a piece of butter in here, if I can get it in there. And look at those cracklings, aren't they gorgeous? And some of them kind of floated to the top and some of them stayed or where they were, and some of them sunk to the bottom. And then just for good measure, because this is Big D's piece, we're gonna put a little butter on top. Like I said, it's still really hot. So this is really glorious, and you can see the steam coming off of it. It is a beautiful addition to any meal, We like to have it especially on New Year's Day because you've got your pork in there, and if you don't like a lot of pork, your pork for New Year's Day can kind of be your cracklins and your cornbread. And cornbread is always the perfect accompaniment to any greens you might have, or black-eyed peas, or barbecue. I could go on. But this is our take on a true Southern favorite. This is Cracklin Cornbread, and we hope that you see how easy it is. All it is it's a really good, simple cornbread recipe that we have added some really fine pork cracklins to, and we hope that you'll give it a try. This recipe will be in the show notes for this video, as well as thebutteredhome.com. So give us a check out over at our website. We would love for you to give us a visit there. Also, if you're not following us already on our other social media channels, we would love to have you visit with us over at Facebook and Instagram. Every Monday night we cook live over there, and we have a really good time. We would love for you to join us there. Also, if you haven't already, be sure that you hit that subscribe button and ding the bell for good measure so that you can be notified when we drop more videos like this one. So we hope that you'll make this and you'll love it. Send us a picture if you do. Tag us in the comments. We'd love to see people's pictures of their food. So be sure and join us here next week for another great Southern recipe. From the buttered home to your home, we love y'all. Bye.